knew the Muppets theme song, I would hum it. I don't know why that like came into my head with what I was just doing.
I tried to think of the Muppet theme song just now, and what I got instead was the Dinosaurs theme song.
Dinosaurs?
Did you ever watch the show Dinosaurs?
No, but I watched the one with like the magic dinosaur like stone thing.
No,
Dragon
not a
Tales.
cartoon.
That was
Dragon
Dragon Tales,
Tales.
not dinosaurs.
No. Okay. This recently came up because I was staying with a friend who also had not seen dinosaurs. There are two types of families in the world. The families who you will say, "Have you ever watched dinosaurs?" And they'll go, "What? What is that?" No, kind of like you did just now. And then there's the families, like the family that I come from, where the answer is, "Yes, of course we've watched dinosaurs, not the mama." So, and if you'd watched dinosaurs, you'll know exactly what I just did. I was gonna open this with a question to our listeners about what level of animal death is approved in their romance novels, but we're gonna have to come back to that way down the line.
We'll come back to it in our next episode when I'm talking about
no,
the
we're
book
coming back to it.
Is it in this
today?
One? Did someone?
No.
Okay, I was like,
in what next episode would be?
Well, the Halloween one is when I'm talking about the book that I was talking about. The death being in was in the. It's gonna.
Okay, great. So we'll come back to that next episode. You've got some time to think on it, get it percolating. Dinosaurs was a sitcom, and I believe the 90s ? Although nobody quote me on that because I wasn't born until 98, so I don't know. Well, it's a sitcom, but it's set in
it's that one?
Yes.
I only know that from the Happy Days preview that would be in VHSs. Sunday, Monday, Happy Days. Like that one. So like in front of like the Rugrats and stuff and a lot of like old VHSs we have at our cabin, they have these weird freaking dinosaurs in it, and I never knew what they were.
It's like if you're watching like a typical family sitcom, but it's set in prehistoric times and they're all dinosaurs. But like, so the dad is named Earl and he works at a construction site and he comes home every day and he just wants to watch TV, and Fran is the mom and she's very put upon, and they have a teenage son and a kind of tween teenage daughter, and then at the very beginning of the show they have a baby. And the baby is by far the funniest character in the show, and he refers to Earl as not the mama. Hence my not the mama. And he smacks him with stuff all the time. And it's one of the funniest shows, genuinely, I have ever seen. At least at the beginning. We never watched like into the later seasons. Yes. So it was created, or at least the idea was come up with by Jim Henson. So they're kind of like Muppet-esque.
Oh, so it's, I mean, the Muppets ties into that. We can segue.
Well, that's true, but I immediately got that which is their song. Anyway, highly recommend Dinosaurs.
Yeah,
it is genuinely
it's that birth scene. Yeah,
very funny.
Well, this is answered a question that I've harbored in the back of my brain.
It's excellent. We watched one this weekend while I was staying with my friend. She put on one I had never seen because our family never watched into the later seasons. We only watched the first few, but we watched them a lot. And we quote them a lot to this day.
Dang. The only dinosaur one that I really vibed with was The Land Before Time. And even then, I'm traumatizing.
Yeah. I think I remember watching it and being like, why would you show me this?
Yeah. Like, I still say yep. Like that. Like, Ducky, she lives with me. The trauma also lives with me because I was too young for that. But yeah, I just did not need to see.
I get not the mama. I also get this scene actually lives in my head rent-free. There's a scene where the dad is watching TV, as he is doing a lot, and the baby's hand comes up from, like, kind of in front of the couch under the table and starts, like, kind of feeling around, and he's like, don't you touch that remote. And he touches it, and I'm forgetting the exact sequence, but he says something about, like, you better not change that channel, and he does. And he goes, if you turn that TV off, you're going to be one sorry little dinosaur. And he does. And then he pops up and goes, I'm sorry. And I quote that too much. I quote it a lot. Like a lot.
That's crazy that I never watched that. My mom just
I am the mighty Megalosaurus, the king of the dinosaurs. The T-Rex is the king of the dinosaurs. I know, I dated one in high school.
A T-Rex?
I was quoting Fran, but yes.
I was like, wow.
Not to brag, But I'm
bending
living that
all the norms.
Katie Robert heroine life.
Yeah. Except for maybe the 2 dicks will actually be useful. Just saying.
Well, that's
I still
dragons, not T-Rexes.
That is dragons. Does she have a dinosaur?
She hasn't written any dinosaurs, no.
I don't know, but I did read the one where he chomped off her arm and she got horny over it.
Classic.
So there was that. Wow. Yeah, that still lives with me. Like, yeah, your mate's fed, but it's your arm. So.
But it's your arm.
I don't. The Wonderful World of Dinosaurs. Jurassic Park, my favorite film score. Shout out to my man, John Williams.
Your
for
man.
Making my man. Just a baller soundtrack. Just
Johnny Wills.
Yeah. And I think he'd make a bomb soundtrack for Bewitching if he ever decided to just have something to do in his spare time.
That's probably true. This would make a fun. Actually, the whole time I was reading it, well, actually I was reading it when I first heard about it and added it to my want to read shelf. I was like, so you're telling me that if I really like the show Bewitched,
yeah,
but I want it as like a historical romance that exists. And for the most part, I feel like that's an accurate comp.
Cool, because I think I've seen like some Bewitched.
Gasp! What an excellent show.
I know.
It's like one of my mom's favorite shows, so we watch that one a lot too.
I was wondering, because I was like assuming that it felt those vibes, but I didn't know.
I mean, except that Bewitched is like a sitcom, so it's like
I think I watched more Sabrina with Melissa Joan Hart.
Yeah, I didn't watch much. I've seen episodes, but that's
I didn't like. I wasn't like religiously watching. I was a Disney Channel kid, so I was like pretty much.
Well, I was a Nickelodeon dinosaurs and Bewitched kid, apparently,
and Jane Austen,
and yeah,
and Shakespeare,
yeah. Different vibes. Speaking of different vibes, it makes me laugh that you're wearing a Camp Half-Blood shirt.
I am.
I'm currently wearing a cropped Lando Norris Texas Grand Prix jersey. So. Once again, we are the two wolves inside you.
We are. Who's your favorite now?
I think it's Lando. I think he has surpassed Charles. I know.
Yes.
I mean, I do still listen.
Yes.
I want Charles to be a world champion. And I want Ferrari to stop fucking his life. Did you see? You don't care about F1, but he did get disqualified from the Grand Prix.
He did what?
Yeah, he and Lewis Hamilton both got disqualified after the race.
How do you get disqualified?
It was like the plank under his car was a few tenths of a millimeter to basically it was like running a little bit too low to the ground, and so it's an unfair advantage by a few tenths of a millimeter, she says, annoyed. It was complicated. It wasn't as bad for him. I mean, he came in 6th after starting in 1st. Because of terrible strategy. Classic Ferrari move. But it does mean that he lost a place in the Drivers' Championship and Lando went up a place. They swapped.
He also went
weird
up a place
position
in your heart.
for me to be in. Yeah, he did. I mean, he was already kind of there. It really sucked for Lewis Hamilton because Lewis Hamilton came in 2nd. And absolutely killed that drive. He was excellent. And then they disqualified him.
Oh, that would hurt.
Yeah. So
I did not see that. Rip.
It was a wild weekend.
How was it?
It was great. It was awesome. It was really hot. It was so
hot.
I
was not envious of the hot, but it looked fun.
It was.
I loved your pose.
That was Thank you. See, I think I'm hilarious.
Well, because I knew, because you had told me about what it was, so like I knew the lore.
Well, I got there. For context, if you don't like follow me on Instagram, there's an excellent.
What are you doing?
So true. There's a meme of George Russell because in the intro to like the F1 intro this year, they show like very dramatic shots of all of the drivers posing dramatically, but mostly fairly normally, except for a few. And George, if you look up like I'm sure if you look up George Russell meme, it'll come up, or like pose, whatever. He's like T-posing very aggressively, like with his head down.
Foot is crossed.
Yeah, like,
Like,
he's
right?
got a foot crossed, and he's, like, got his arms, like, on the kinda walls next to him
Yeah.
with his head down, and then he looks up very dramatically and stares into the camera, and this has been a meme all year that people have photoshopped into different things, and so I showed up at Coda. Well, really, I took the picture at the end of the day because there were fewer people, but at the entrance, they had big, like, hashtag CO, and then there was a blank with little, like, places where you put your feet, and then A, so you could stand and be the T in Coda,
Be
right?
the
Very
T.
cute.
Be the
Be the
T you
T.
wanna see.
Exactly. And I watched person after person go up and just, like, smile, do a little T pose, it was cute, or, like, here's the dad with the kids, like, all kinda in a row in front of him doing it, very adorable, and I was like,
Where's the drama?
I was
Where's
like,
the
"The
cinema?
perfect opportunity has been handed to us on a plate." I don't so I did it, obviously, and somebody commented that they also did it because apparently they were at Coda and they did that, so I'm sure others did, but nobody that I saw, and I was deeply disappointed by all of the people that I was watching.
You would think people would do both. Like,
I mean, I did
dramatic
both. I have, like, a one
drama,
of
the
me just
cheese.
smiling, but
Yeah.
it's just that the George Russell T-pose is right there.
And that's why it's there, right? That's why the
No, I'm
T
sure
is
it was
gone?
how
Oh.
I'm sure that was just a thing
Oh, well, that
so
just
that
fits
you can.
perfectly, though.
No, it just happened. I was like, "Look at this." How magical. How perfect. Anyway, it was a great time. 10 out of 10. We'll probably go back next year. I'm gonna try to this is not going to actually happen, however, in my dreams, so Forever announced oh my gosh, let me back up. I started working for Forever again. Party. Woo! Woo! Like, but not as an intern, as an actual employee. You love to see it.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and they announced that they had acquired an F1 romance.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do I convince how do I convince the higher ups that sending me, and honestly, I would try to convince Dana to go to the Grand Prix is a business expense. Like, I actually have to go for marketing purposes, right? It seems reasonable to me. So I think that
Bring
they
the
should.
author, and
There
then
we
you're
go. We can all
golden.
go sit in the grandstand. It'll only cost several $1,000s. um,
It's for love, okay? It's for love.
and for money. We don't
Love
pray
and
for love.
money.
We just pray for cars, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
So none of this was relevant. I got off on a tangent there. Why? Oh, T-pose. George
T-pose.
Russell. Formula
Mhm.
1, wearing a jersey. I'm in love with Lando Norris.
Whoever thought that Charles Leclerc
I mean,
would
I
just
didn't.
get disqualified from your heart?
You know what? I should have seen it coming because here's the thing. Charles is lovely. He's very classically handsome. Like, he
Mhm.
is, you look at him and you're like, wow, that is a handsome man.
Mhm.
Lando Norris is funny, though. And
Yeah.
one thing about me is you can be a very strange and or mediocre looking man, but if you're funny, like, I would take you to my penthouse and I'd freak it. You know what I mean? Like, you got me. That's all you needed to do. And Lando Norris is very funny. And also, I didn't think he was attractive, but I have apparently revised that previous statement. Suddenly, there are a lot of thirst trap Lando Norris edits saved in my TikTok.
Because he was the Noah Centineo one. Is that him?
Yes, I think.
Or he
Yeah.
wasn't the Liam one?
No. I think
Okay. So I
he
think he
called
was
him
in that
Noah
one.
Centineo.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it, but I've watched a
I mean,
lot of
that's
edits.
normal.
And I've watched a lot of videos of him being very silly and bullying his teammate, who I also love. Also, all the IndyCar McLaren drivers are hot, and they just signed. They decided to be the sponsor for an F1 Academy driver. I mean, all of the F1 teams are going to sponsor an F1 Academy driver, but I really like the driver that they picked.
Is that for women?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
And there's
Nice.
they're just all hot and funny.
Hell yeah. I just saw that there's going to be a pro women's hockey league.
Oh.
And it's like Minnesota Massachusetts. Well, I mean, I suppose like Minnesota, Boston, New York, and then 2 or 3 places in Canada. I know Toronto and Ontario maybe. So like they at least got the states right and the Canada right. I'm excited. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I will be purchasing the merch. I'm excited.
I love that.
So, I know my mom told me about it today. I was like, "Why haven't I heard about that?" I know. So, sports. Gotta love it. Sports. And witches.
And witches.
And
it only took us 15 minutes to... Well, technically, you brought it around way sooner. I just took us on a tangent.
We got on the broomstick and put it away for a little bit.
So true. So true.
We wouldn't be Romance or TBR if we didn't have at least one episode the past few weeks that tangents egregiously.
That's so true.
In the best way. Because we've been pretty good lately. Just because, like, I don't know, I feel like we've been tired. Which I'm not saying I'm not tired. Don't get me wrong.
We're always tired. Tired is a constant state of...
You come to me in a day.
Constant state of mind. I'm so sleepy. You come to me on a day when I'm so sleepy.
Ugh.
Tired is my resting emotion.
Okay. We are going to put our tiredness on pause and talk about Bewitching by Jill Barnett.
Yes, we are. Spoilers ahead.
Many spoilers.
Spoilers.
We teased a little bit about it last week in our episode. I hadn't read it yet. Caroline had, and then I just finished the audiobook today. She read the ebook. I did the audio, and the audio was very good. So I endorse the audio portion.
I read the ebook. I have the physical book.
Or the physical. Yeah. I have the ebook. I got it free sometime.
Wait, because if I have the ebook, then I have highlights. But if I only... Because sometimes I will, like, download the ebook and then mark highlights in it, even though I'm reading the... Okay, no, I don't have the ebook. So I only had the physical book, which means I have no highlights. Tragic.
Relatable. Yep.
So we're just going to have to roll off with whatever I remember. Which, frankly, isn't much.
I
remember the plot.
Yeah, so she's a witch.
Slay.
Gotta love it. I just love historical paranormal. Like, because there's not a lot. And so it's just so comforting. I really enjoy it. But she's like a full-on witch. Like, I mean, she's not a great witch.
She's same. A poor witch.
She's a poor witch.
In terms of skill.
Yes, but heart, she is rich. She is talented at being in love with a gray-haired duke named something that I can't remember.
Oh, no, not me also not knowing. Hang on, wait. Alec.
Oh, yeah, because he's her darling Alec. How did I forget that? Well, it's not impossible for me to have forgotten that, because that's very normal, actually. And her name was
Joy.
Joyous. Yes, Joy. Ugh, so cute.
She was so fun. This book was so cute.
It was. It was a little slow at the beginning just because I was kind of like, what? Well, because at first, it's funny, I had tweeted right before I started reading this that I get really annoyed when one character, like, starts the book, like, betrothed, engaged, in love with, wanting to marry someone else. And then, like, I was, like, having conversations with that on Twitter. And then I start this book, and then he's like, oh, yeah, I'm engaged. I've been doing my best to get her. I hired lawyers to go find her. I mean, and I was like, God fucking damn it. And then she jilted him. I was like, oh. I was so happy. That's how you got to do it. If I'm going to stick around, that's how you got to do it. And then she, like, they run into this, like, fortune teller lady. She's like, oh, yeah, you're going to meet your wife, like, real soon.
You'll marry the next woman you meet, is what he says.
Yeah. And then what does Joy do? But stumbles right into his life.
Well, it's more like she appears from the ether directly on top of him.
I mean that too.
Which is me thinking to myself, like, surely I will meet the love of my life if I just, like, never leave my house and I sit in my room and read books all day. So apparently in my head, they're going to pull a Joyous Macquarie and just, like, fall onto me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which isn't how things work.
Mm-mm. But I sure wish it was.
So true. This took, like, Grumpy Sunshine to another level. Because
Yeah.
he is so, like, not here for it. And she
Well,
is
yeah.
so, "Oh, no, I accidentally brought the statues to life, and we're having a party."
Yeah, because because then he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna marry you. Like, we're gonna get married." He calls her Scottish, which was adorable.
Yep.
So they
She's
get
so lovely,
married like pretty quickly into the book, and like that, like it was like a good intro. It wasn't as like intriguing. And then they were like at his like estate. And then she, like before they can consummate, she feels guilty. She's like, "Well, I gotta tell him that I'm a witch. Like I can't in good conscience. Like I can't not tell him." So then she does, and he's just like not prepared. His mind, like he's already done the crazy and like married someone that he doesn't know. Like this is very out of his comfort zone. And then to know that, and he basically just picked it because his pride was hurt that he was jilted. Like he was just like hubris got him a little bit. And so he was just like, I can't handle that right now. So then he just storms out. And then he's like pretty like logical about it the next morning, which I liked. And then he proceeded to, like from the majority of the book to be like, please don't. Like, don't use your
Yeah.
magic at all. Like, because then they had to go meet like Prinny, and he's like, you like we will get like hanged. We will be dead if you like accidentally
Yeah.
conjure like something, because like witchcraft.
Sure.
Like he's
Classic.
superstitious. Like you can't do that because like her magic is super uncontrollable. Like she'll sneeze and
I love sneezing,
random
whatever
things
you're thinking.
I know.
That took me actually, there were
Yeah.
I was, like, giggling, kicking my
Yeah.
feet for most
As
of this book.
soon
It
as
was
soon as
so
it got to the
funny.
road trip element, I was so hooked. Because I think what also happened
See,
was
I was hooked right away.
I was working. So like I
Mm.
was listening to like the first little bit while I was working, and like my mind was like kind of half there and then half just working. Because that's where I listen to most of my audiobooks. And so I was able to go do a puzzle for like the best part of the book in my opinion, which was like the middle where there was a snowstorm and a carriage and a lot of things happened, and it was just them, like just the two of them on the page, which I thought was really fun. And that poor Duke milking cows and having to cook and bake, and he just has no clue, and he's just like muttering to himself, like just so angry. So I got to do that when I was like my entire mind, it was just like in the story at that point. And I did say in my review, I was like, you know what, I wasn't really in the mood to read this. So like I'm a huge mood reader, so I was like, honestly, like if I were to reread it, which I think I will next year, or probably like deep into winter, like this was more like a winter than a spooky book for me.
Yeah.
You know? So like I wanted to read it because I wanted to be able to talk about it. But I think I just need to be in the right. Again, it was a very good book, but I think I was just a little like at the beginning. I was like, I want to be reading Immortals After Dark because I did break that seal, and I read No Rest for the Wicked because Twitter and people were talking about things, and I couldn't contain myself, so I had things in my mind. But yeah, the writing was just super fun, and then when they were alone,
It was so well written. It was so, like, charming, like, genuinely funny, and not in, like, an over-the-top tee-hee, like, I'm gonna be so silly way,
No,
but
I
in,
was
like,
giggling.
a genuinely funny way.
Mm-hmm.
I posted on my story, like, very early on because a few chapters in, I was like, I have been laughing, like, out loud consistently. It was just cracking me up. She's so silly.
Frostbite has never been more funny. Like,
Yeah,
it was
what?
hypothermia, like, because they get in the carrot, like, they're going to London for basically, like, introducing her to Prinny. I think it was Prinny, I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
And then it's, like, he's like, you can't use your magic, like, around me, around anyone, like, you can't do it in private. They're coming off the statues coming to life, and Pan scaring his, what's her name? What's the maid? That main maid?
Oh, I don't remember her name.
Not her name, but like, what's the position?
The housekeeper?
Is that like
Is that what you're looking? Yeah,
I think so. I don't know why.
The main maid. The, like, stern older woman who runs the house. Yes.
I don't know why that escaped me, but escape it did. We're back. So like a lecherous satyr came to life out of his bronze statue and was wreaking havoc on the. Yeah, I know. So he's a little irritated. They're in the carriage, and then it gets super snowy, super quick. And she's like, "Can I do my magic to magic us out of here?" Because their coachmen, like they've all left to go try to find where an inn is. Shit's hit the fan. And then he's like, "No," and I'm like, "Bro." I'm like, "Bro," and then he finally concedes. He's like, "You can do your magic." And then she just magics them into the middle of a snowstorm. She's doing her best, but it wasn't quite good enough. And then he's just so exasperated. And then she gets hypothermia. And then she starts like stripping. And then before you know it, she's completely naked, like having a conversation with herself. It was just so funny. And I was like, I could have stayed in that whole little aside like for the rest of the book. It was so good. Because then they find the inn, and the inn's people magically disappear. So then it's just them for a few days.
I think what really gets me is there were times where I was annoyed with him, but also I was like, I mean, I understand like, why you are the way you are, but like I need you to pull it. Because, you know, you want him to just like be happy.
Yeah.
And like have a little magic in his life.
Yeah.
I think what got me is that kind of a character. Because when I read the premise where he first is like basically he wants her to just not use magic, I was annoyed. Right?
Yeah.
Because how very man of you to demand that she not do the thing that is a part of who she is.
Mm-hmm.
But Jill Barnett wrote it in a way where, like, it wasn't overbearing and awful. Or even when it was, like, balanced out with enough, like, humor and you understand why he is the way he is. Or where he's like, we will get killed. Like, like, you cannot display your witchcraft in front of the Prince Regent. Like, I need you to pull it together. And then she just, like, decimated his entire perception of his life.
Yeah.
And so you're like,
his father raised him to be unfeeling, doesn't believe in love, all of that fun stuff.
Yeah. So she just managed to take, because I feel like it would not have been as satisfying if he just like, you know what, I love you, it's fine, you can do magic. Like, I think I would have taken it and been like, okay, fine, you figured it out. But I appreciate that she was like, no, this is not just about her. I need you to like reevaluate who you believe you are and your principles.
Yeah, like I think it took a little long for me. Just again, I wanted to be reading something else. So I mean, I still gave it like 4.25, 4.5 stars. Like it was still a very good book. But I was like, okay, we're a little, because then it kind of meandered a few different points, and then by the end, I was like, what book is this? Which was good, but then I was also like, what is happening? My thing with that is I felt like she apologized too many times, and I felt bad for, because like, I mean, it wasn't like in even really a meek way. She was just kind of like, I'm sorry, I can't control it, like whatever. And I was like, girl, just do what you want. He'll follow.
That just like was not a part of who she was, though. And I do feel like he got his comeuppance.
He did, like, and that's why it worked. The ending, I know. So like, I was like teetering on like definitely being annoyed at parts, because I was just, it was like after when they were just them together, because like they had made like good progress, and then it was like kind of taking a few steps backward. But it needed to happen that way to have the end be what it was. So like it knew what it needed to do. So again, it's like I understand why he was annoyed. I understand why, because then it made a very satisfying ending.
Right.
So, which again, yeah, I saw that you were crying, and I was like, I won't cry.
Because the first like 80% of this book is like, this is so cute and fun. And then it just believe that she's a witch, and she's like, hang on, let me prove it to you, which also took me out, because it's been a long time since I've seen the first episode of Bewitched, but it's a very similar, there's like a cute little very fast like boy meets girl, like they keep bumping into each other, they get married very quick. It's like the 50s or 60s, I think it's the 50s, like they get married, and then on their wedding night she's like, I'm a witch, and he doesn't believe her. And she has to, again, it's been a long time since I've seen it, but she like moves things around, and I'm pretty sure she levitates the chair he's sitting in. Like, I read that and was like, oh, you mean like in Bewitched where she levitates the chair he's sitting? Like, I think that was like a straight up reference.
So was Bewitched a show?
Yeah.
Because did they remake it with Will Ferrell?
I think they made a movie of it. Yeah,
so I saw the movie.
That's not good.
Because the whole thing was about her like nose like wiggling.
Yeah, she the witch. She wiggles her nose, and that's
which was also a little bit in the book about her not like wiggling her nose, but like scrunching her nose and stuff.
Yeah,
like maybe that's
ignore the movie. That's not. Don't. But the show is excellent. Anyway, so you're giggling, you're tee-hee ooh-ooing, you're having a great time.
And
then his brother appears, and then you're
like,
crying.
I was like, what do you mean?
I was like, why am I emotionally dead? And then he tells the story, and then he does the thing where like people are making him sweep, and he's like, what's the Tom Jones thing?
Yeah, whatever.
He doesn't realize that everyone's laughing at him and not with him, and it's giving flowers for Algernon. Did you read that?
No.
Flowers for Algernon.
I'm sensing
short
a theme.
Story.
Have you read that? No.
Listen, Flowers for Algernon is a short story that emotionally devastated me.
I did read The Scarlet Ibis, which also emotionally devastated me.
I don't know that one, so you got me there.
You're good there. It also deals with a sibling relationship, and it's a whole thing. And
so this one isn't a sibling. It's devastating. So it's about Algernon is a lab mouse.
Oh, hell no.
You don't really, it's not about him, it's about, so Algernon is a lab mouse, he's undergone surgery to make him more intelligent. The story is told, it's a series of progress reports, according to Wikipedia, because I had to revisit. He's the first human subject for this, to make him more intelligent. So he starts out the book, it's unclear, but like intellectually disabled. Right? Like, it's not very well written. It's, like, there's a lot of spelling errors, things like that.
So this is a person, not the mouse?
Yeah, it's a person. Okay. Algernon is, like, he talks about Algernon.
Okay.
Because they do it to him, the mouse, and they do it to him, the first human subject. And you see him get more and more intelligent as the progress reports progress. And he's, like, taking care of Algernon. And then Algernon, I think he gets worse and he dies. And so it becomes very apparent that it is not a permanent thing. And so you get to about halfway through and he is fully aware. He's like, this isn't gonna last. Like, I don't want to watch myself regress back to where I began. And he does. Over the course of the rest of the progress reports, he regresses more and more. And he's like devastatingly aware of it until he isn't, because he's regressed so far. And then Algernon dies, and then it stops, and it's implied that he's died also. And in it, he at the beginning talks about, I don't know if it's like other students or what, but basically it's a very similar, like, he thinks he's very friendly with all of these people and that they're like laughing and joking with him. And as he becomes more intelligent or like, you know, improves, he realizes that they were actually laughing at him and not with him. And then as he regresses, he returns back to that, like, not realizing when people are making fun of him. So this was a devastating read for middle school me. It would be a devastating read now, I guarantee it, because you read it and you're like, oh. And so that was the energy it was giving when he's talking about like his friends who want him to like show how well he does his job. And then you're just crying.
I was crying. That is accurate. Oh my god. No, but I did read of Mice and Men, which is another mouse and men.
Just another mouse man.
And that one also hurt. Oh god. Yeah, I was
Alec is so devastated too.
I know. No, because it's basically the Duke, they had a second son, like, I think when the hero was like 3 and he didn't know about it. And he was intellectually disabled. And you don't get much information besides that. And then he was like sent away to live with some person named Robbie. I don't quite know who Robbie is, but he had a good life. Like he
like a fisherman or something.
Oh, like, yeah, fish. Like he enjoyed. Like he loved Robbie. Like he was. raised,
Yeah, but
at least with love. Like, thankfully, at least, like, I was at least.
Yeah,
he
yeah,
was,
yeah.
I mean, yes. I mean, he had a better life with Robbie than he would have had with the fucking Duke, whatever. But yeah, so the hero didn't know. There were, like, no hints, no clues that this was going to happen. So then you just get a knock on the door, and she answers it, and she's like, hello. And they're like, hey, is the Duke here? Because he's now the guardian of
this ward.
This ward. And because the former guardian had passed away. And then I'm like, what the hell? And then
you think, like, she does, oh, we have a child entering the mix?
Yeah, which is weird, because I literally just read a Megan Frampton arc where he thinks his guardian, that he just becomes a guardian. He thinks his ward is a child, and she's like 17. And so, like, I was like, flashback. And they genetically have gray hair. And so once he took his hood off, or hat or whatever off, and then everyone was in the room, they realized that he was his brother. And then the Duke that was like the final shift.
And he's just so sweet, and he just wants to be loved, and he wants people to think that he's smart and like him, and he's just so lovely, and people yell at him and make fun of him.
I know. So then the freaking housekeeper, she gets boosted because nasty ass evil wench.
What really? Oh, you know what? I did download the ebook briefly, because my copy of Bewitching, I got it on, like, Thrift Books or something, I think, and it turns out it's an arc. It's an arc from 1993.
Oh my god!
So, I'm like, slay, but it means there were a couple of, like, little grammatical errors and things as I was reading that I'm like, I assume that got corrected, but that scene, for some reason, it cut from, like, she was yelling at him and Joy was kind of stuck in the back of the crowd. And then I don't remember if I saw. Oh, I think I did. Alec showed up and he was like, But then it cut, like, kind of in the middle of while he was talking, and all of a sudden it jumped to, like, her comforting. What is the brother's name? It's like, is it Kevin or something? Why is that in my head?
I don't know why I forgot it. I have forgotten it.
Steven.
I was thinking Evan. I don't know. Steven. Yeah, because then did you think that he didn't, like, throw her out?
Well, I mean, I found out later because they reference it later that she was leaving, but So she does the, like, get away, you're nothing but an animal, you're a beast, you belong in an asylum, look at you, you don't belong here. Steven began to sob, I didn't mean to, I would have fixed it. And then it cuts to, she took the pieces, Mrs. Watley has shouted at you before, hasn't she? And, like, her talking to him about it. So I actually didn't even get to the part where Alex stepped in. So I'm like, how did Joy get there? Like, what happened? So I finished I just assumed there was, like, something missing. And there was, so I went back later and was like, hang on, how did we get Alec?
Well, thankfully that it got
because at first resolved. He responds so bad, like, not badly, he's shocked, but, like, because you're like, oh, like, does he not, like, is he gonna respond poorly to this, right? And then you find out he's just so betrayed that his parents would do something like this.
Oh yeah, because he, like, kind of disappears
family legacy means he just goes and rides horses, king.
Yeah, well, because he grew up trying to impress his father in his shadow, trying to model
perfect and live up
being
the name.
Perfect, and, like, because he thought that if he would be like his father would love him. And so I think it was just, like, obviously therapy would have provided him
sure
many outlets. But from what we saw, he was just really reckoning with, like, well, if I was trying to be like my father could do this, and, like, I'm basing all of my preconceived notions on what I have conceived from my father, like, who am I? Am I not a good person? Like, just dismantling all of those things.
Like, his entire sense of self in the world.
Yeah.
And also now he has this brother to be with.
Ugh.
And there was a great job, but I cry.
Oh, I wept.
And then he throws himself in front of it.
And
save a child.
I was like, okay. I was like, he cannot die.
Oh yeah.
But I was like, I don't know. I was like, I don't know, because to bring back the dog death, I had just read a book where I was like, the dog can't die. Did on the page, and I was like, unacceptable. And so I was like, I trust no one right now. I was like, oh my god. And then he was like, okay, well, because then he was like, Joy, you need to come with me. And she was like, what? And he's like, I need you to use your magic now. Because like he hadn't approved of it. There was times when like when they'd be having sex, she'd like conjure up like pink roses. That was like he's like, I
iconic
like
of her.
But he like admitted that when he thought that she was like, tell the truth, and he didn't know he was under kind of like a truth spell. So then this was like the first time he like actively, after the snowstorm fiasco, was like, please do your magic. And she's like, I can't, like my magic is not strong enough for that. And he was just devastated. Like that was like too much for him, and it was too much for me, and I was like, oh my god,
it was too much for all of us.
It was too much.
All of this was too much. I was crying the whole way through.
Yeah.
Steven was also crying, which is like the worst possible thing in the world.
I know.
And then you have the drama of the other witch being like,
yeah,
it's you or Steven, and obviously she's gonna choose Steven.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was like, how did we get here? Like, what do you mean she has to leave? Because it was basically like,
it was
Alec
Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, because the way it was framed, which again, like I didn't see coming, was that he didn't learn how to love, like in the time frame that her like aunt witch or whoever that witch was. I don't.
Mm-hmm. I think it was her aunt.
That was like in the beginning, and I was kind of like here there. And she was like, well, he hasn't learned to love you. And like how to love.
It was
like,
giving the last petal has fallen.
Yeah. And it did. And so she's like, okay, well then, so she just disappears because basically the witch is like, I will save Steven. Like I have enough power to do that. But he does, like Alec doesn't deserve, like you can't be with him because you were put into his life, try to like show him love, and he just isn't receptive. And I was like, well, that's cruel. That hurt a little bit. I was like, okay.
Yeah, but I loved seeing that.
Slap me in the face, why don't you? Yeah. Well, because then it was very satisfying.
Oh, yeah.
To see him in pain.
Watching him run through the streets and then, like, beg that old woman to bring his wife back, only for her to be like, I don't know what you're talking about, and disappear.
It's giving, in the like Samara Parish, the second one, I think, when he has his like pristine reputation and the entire book, he's like hell bent on like keeping his reputation, and then at the end he just goes and does whatever the hell he would like to ruin it.
Just goes absolutely
and like
ham.
Yeah, and like it felt like that.
What if I ride through Hyde Park naked? Like,
yeah. And so this was a little bit different because he wasn't actively trying to ruin his reputation; he was just going through it.
He just like did not care. Him, that was it wasn't like I'm gonna make a gesture of ruining my reputation.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a gesture.
That I don't care. It was I am losing my mind. Somebody chase that old woman down right now. I don't care who sees me. I need to get on my knees and beg her to bring my wife back because I love her so much.
And then he suffered for like a month or so or something.
Yeah,
like it was a long time. And then obviously
and he's so obsessed with her and with her hair
and Scottish. I know the hair, and then calling her Scottish. There was I can't remember what it was because again I was doing the audiobook. But one like something that he said in the cabin, I was like, oh my god, it was just so cute and sweet. And then and then when he finds her, it was just very wholesome.
It was so wholesome.
Yeah,
and then the
epilogue. We're not. Again, don't.
Because then I was still crying. Like I was already crying, and then it was like, what if I then give you an image of his little magical children, like practicing their magic on him?
They're like
him
6
being
magical
a doting father,
and then
it's like 5 magical children and 1 non-magical child who they all love equally,
who's outwitting the magical children.
Iconic of him. And his little daughter's, like, levitating his chair, and he's like, wow, well done. I'm so proud of you. And then I'm crying.
Well, yeah, because earlier, when they were going to consummate, he was like, when she told him that she was a witch, when he came back the next day, he's like, honestly, that's fine. Like, that's okay. Just don't do magic.
He was so real for that, too.
Yeah, he was like, honestly, like, you're hot. We're in this together. Like, we're all in this together. Clap, clap, clap. And then she was like, well, you do know that it can be, like, it's genetic. Like, my children could inherit it. Like, it's not 100%, but I did have a mortal parent, and I am a witch. Not a good one, but I am a witch. And he's like, well, that changes the game. And then he just leaves to talk to his solicitor, and you're like, huh? And then it's a whole thing. So then, seeing in the epilogue him embracing, obviously, like, it's romance, like, you thought he would, but to see it on the page was another kind of pain. And then Stephen was reading a book to one of them.
Stephen with the
I know. I was, like, making sure that they were going to oh, God, it was just... It was chicken soup for the soul, but also...
Oh, my God. Also, that familiar? What is that thing?
Yeah. A ferret.
No, it's
eating hair.
I thought it was something else.
A weasel? It's like a weasel ferret thing.
It's like a weasel ferret thing.
It confirmed me not wanting one.
I mean, I never did, so that wasn't ever an issue.
I mean, that's very true. But I was like, yeah, that was scary because well, they have an ermine and a tesseract, and that also I was like, I don't want an ermine.
An ermine weasel.
Oh, well,
so you were correct.
Ermine, they don't have a good rep in books. So sorry to the ermines out there. You kind of
but then the proposition you got the weasel
I thought he was a ferret.
I thought it was a weasel because weasels are the ones that hunt.
Are they
ferrets? I thought it was a weasel.
I know mongoose and snakes. I don't know. I'm not.
I feel like it was a weasel, but it could have been a ferret. What's the difference? I don't know.
Is there one? Who knows? And there had to have been one, at least a Clapus one. Maybe. I think there was a ferret there.
Yeah.
Or a weasel.
Yeah, that ferret that loves
the governess.
Catherine Marks.
Catherine, yeah.
And that ferret loves her garters so much.
Oh yeah, so this guy, he loved hair, and he just ate the hair off this
poor footman.
He just had bald spots, and he literally just like ate his cue off.
I respect that he was so chill about it too.
I know, because then that like again like reaffirms like how good of a person that she was. That like he was willing to do that for her. Again, he was also just a good person who let an ermine weasel eat his hair. And then he like got on the shoulder of a maid and like started eating her hair. And then he woke up. Alec like woke up next to the ermine weasel, and was like, every time I say ermine weasel, it's like I'm like first and last naming this animal. And like he's like I gotta check my hair because I don't want to be bald and from it. So it was funny. But God, I still the hypothermia scene when she just started taking off her clothes, and then he's like, "What are you doing?"
The one that got me was really and truly the sneezing everything that she was thinking. Yeah, what was she even thinking about? The first time it was in the cabin, and she's thinking about the dastardly Duke, which was also iconic of her. Didn't she sneeze up like a riding crop or something?
Yeah,
he had one in the book.
Because then he was holding, because she was like turned on. And
he's like, hello.
After he was like milking a cow and getting milk in his face.
It's just such a silly, goofy time.
It's a movie that I want to watch.
Honestly, yes. That is so true.
And I haven't seen the best reviews for book 2, which is called Dreaming. It's the Earl, because there's that one I have to assume deals with alcoholism.
A classic historical romance theme.
Mm-hmm. Again, the proposition, a few other ones, and he has a Viscount and an Earl are like his two best friends.
Who I loved, by the way.
Yeah. They're like
the Viscount. 13, I assume it was in the audiobook too.
Oh, because
Chapter 13 is omitted because
it was unlucky. That was hilarious.
Because for a second I was like, oh no, like, is this something about me having an art? No, at the request of Neil Viscount Seymour, Chapter 13 has been omitted. Bad luck, That's the type of humor I want.
Yeah, that's giving India Holton.
Yes.
Or India Holton's giving Jill Barnett.
Yeah, all of the above. And it's excellent.
Yeah, so he has the two friends, and then one of his friends is an Earl who is assumed to be an alcoholic. Basically, when he has alcohol in his system, he is not very nice. He's lecherous. He's not fun to be around. But then the Duke
And
is
he
like,
has
but when he
alcohol in
doesn't,
his system a lot. At least in
yeah,
this book, by the
yes,
time we meet him.
yeah. And then when he doesn't, he is a lovely person, and then he shows like who he is at the end. And I'm happy he wasn't like he didn't do anything like villainous. I was scared a little
Yeah, he
bit.
was just like a little bit of a dick.
Yeah, I was like scared that it was gonna be like a Sebastian Saint Vincent situation where he was gonna like do something egregious, but he did not. So the second book, which was written like I think many years after this one, because this one was like in the 90s and that was in the 2000s. Unless it was just that edition, so don't quote me on that. It's his book because there's uh a woman in Letitia who
I
like
love her.
is tormenting him because she's just like in love with him, and like they kind of like make her the butt of the joke. And so then she's his heroine, which that intrigues me, but then I have just seen a lot of reviews being like he is just really mean to her, which makes me sad. And they're like he doesn't have to win her, and so I'm like I don't. Again, those are just like a few reviews. It doesn't have like too many because it's older. So I'm like contemplating. They did say that Bewitching was the better book, but the second one, Dreaming, was funnier, and I'm like, it was funnier, you say? Because this
So
was
that's
funny.
fairly impressive.
Yeah, I was like, okay, so that's intriguing to me. Because if I can laugh through the pain, we can maybe make it work. So who knows? I'm tempted, probably not this season, but maybe if I reread it and I have a wild urge to do it, I will. I just don't want to be tarnished, you know? Like I read the second in the Whitney My Love because I loved that guy and then he was just horrible. And I was like, so if I wouldn't have read it, I could have just loved him unconditionally. And now there are conditions.
I mean, but do you really like his character?
No, so this one I did not really like him.
Only really get better.
Yeah.
I thought he was
true.
funny. I mean, I also recognized that he was a dick when he drank, but by the end he had stopped, or at least not that he had stopped, but there were a lot of scenes where he was not drunk and he was like very charming, and they also befriended Steven and were going around with them.
And I'm wondering if there's magic in that book, like if there's any paranormal elements.
I have to assume not, but
I know. So I'm kind of like, what's the vibe? So again, curiosity may get this cat. Honestly, who knows? Maybe.
I would love that.
I
she
know.
Cracked me up. That poor woman.
I mean, relatable. She's a foolish one. Love her queen.
She was doing her best.
She was.
And Beau Brummel was yelling at her. And Joy was like, absolutely not. I'm going to magically silence that man. As she should.
But yeah, his friends were a really fun addition. Because they were like witness to like him getting the you're gonna marry the first woman that you see, and they're kind of like, what? But they went with it, as good friends do.
That man went through it. He reminds me of like, there were so many times where I imagined him just like with a buffering symbol. You know, the like little turn it, like just buffering.
Yeah.
Just what is happening? Why is the scene where he gets the letter where he gets jilted and he just like stares at it and then rips it up in tiny pieces and puts it back on the tray and is like no response and then proceeds to like, I'm pretty sure play the rest of his game of cards before finally being like, I am no longer betrothed. Like,
because he was just giving his whole speech about how it was such a wise decision to get the team of lawyers to go get him a wife that was like the most advantageous, and he was so just stuffy about it. And I was like, that's what needs to happen. Well, because I was kind of always waiting again, which maybe a reread will be even better, because I was kind of always waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was waiting for him to do something like truly like really bad, and he never did. I mean, there was one time when I guess there are a few. Like one time she had like a lovely dinner like set for him, and then he snapped at her, and I mean, again, he was a dick about it, but like it wasn't.
But it's never egregious. It's
no,
not, we're like, oh, why would you say that? Like you hurt her feelings, but it's not irredeemable.
Yeah. So like if it feels like there's another shoe that's gonna drop, I didn't feel like there really was one, but I was scared because you had also said that there was like, what did you mean when you said that there was something that
I didn't know
you
how you
didn't?
were gonna respond to Steven.
Steven, oh
Like,
yeah,
the inclusion
Steve,
of that whole little plot line.
that worked. I really enjoyed that. Because I was like, what? I was like, what's gonna happen? I was like, does he have a mistress? I was
Yeah,
like,
because you're
what?
like, how is there this much of the book left? Like, they seem like they're in a
Yeah,
really good place. Is there a third
yeah,
act break? And there was, but not in the, like, tr
yeah.
it wasn't just like, "Oh, no, it's a
Mhm,
miscommunication." It was like, oh, his disabled brother that he didn't even know
mhm.
about, that he now has come to love very deeply, has just
Yeah.
been run over when saving a child, and he's in
Oh, critical
unspeakable
condition.
agony, and his
Yeah,
lungs are filling up, and he's not gonna make it through
yeah,
the night, and so he snapped at his wife.
yeah, yeah. I
Like,
mean,
that's
I was on
where
the
you're
edge there.
like,
I was like,
you're stressed, but it's not like,
yeah,
"Oh, this was a miscommunication." It was like,
yeah,
this man is devastated and
yeah.
said something that he shouldn't have, but
And I liked the Steven inclusion because it really added a layer to many characters. Like
Mhm.
seeing them respond to the situation was really nice. Like I also enjoyed Any Duchess Will Do by Tessa Dare. I don't know if you've read that one, but her sister has developmental delay, and basically that's kind of like her tie to her hometown is that she needs to protect her sister because her parents are like icky. And then once Griff, like she's like very worried for the hero to like meet her and like judge her, but he's like great. And that was very charming. And so like I feel like there are like I've read it like a few different books, and this one I really enjoyed. Same thing with the Tessa Dare. There's an Elizabeth Hoyt one that I was like, that's horrible. Which it wasn't the character, it was like what happened to the character, and then it was like very dramatic, and I was like, I cannot handle that. Because if you don't know, I have a sister with Down syndrome, listeners, if you don't know. So it can be like a very like thing
sensitive.
for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I realized that with the Elizabeth Hoyt one. But this one I felt was like very good. So,
Yeah, I really liked it.
mhm.
And I think I already talked about it, but I will reiterate. I just really love that it wasn't like, "And the power of love redeemed him." It was
Yeah,
like he actually had to reevaluate
his entire
and, like,
like
every part of
structure
his
of yeah.
life and sense it like,
Mhm.
he was completely shaken and his identity had to be rebuilt.
Mhm. And it's like again, I don't always love it when characters have to like change who they are, but in this case, it was like reckoning with things that weren't great, but he never changed like cuz you could see him have that soft underbelly. It was just
Yeah.
protected, very
I mean, it was him, like,
very guarded.
releasing years of,
Yeah.
like, daddy issues, basically,
Mhm. Mhm.
and
Major.
social structures that were not benefiting him
Mhm.
in the slightest. Well, and also you add to that, like, it wasn't just he had to learn how to love Joy, like, he learned how to love this brother that he didn't know that I
Mhm.
mean, it wasn't like he had to really learn how to,
Yeah.
but there was kind of that adjustment period of, like, I
Yeah.
don't know what to do about this,
Well,
and
and seeing people mistreat and being kind of like, "People suck."
yeah.
He was kind of just like, "I can't," like, the Duke is, like, is very close to one of the highest, like, honors or whatever, no titles in the land, and
Mhm.
he was so shitty, and he, like, did not he was so bad, and so I think, like, viewing that and then viewing the people in the story of them making fun of him, and then when he saw it again, he's kinda just like, "Man, people suck." So that can also, like, take a hit. I was like, "Oh god."
Yeah.
So,
It reminds me structurally of Lord of Scoundrels. Actually, a
yeah.
lot, because there's a lot of kind of parallel, like
Mhm.
obviously the characters are not the same even a
Yeah.
little bit. So their arcs are very different, but that idea of like you need this like you need to heal your inner child
Yeah.
and you need to like work that out on your own, and it's not something that
Mhm.
just like, "Oh, I fell in love and now everything is magically fixed." And so bringing in
Yeah.
that other in his case, Dane's case, the child,
Mhm.
and in Alex's case, his brother, to be like, you are not okay, and you need to
Mhm.
deal with that before you can, like, love this other person."
Yeah,
And I
which
like that.
speaking of magically fixing, in the snowstorm period when they're at the inn, he's like, "Oh, she's put a love spell on me. That's why I feel all of these things for her."
It's so funny.
And like he's like, "Oh, everything makes sense," because like that he could understand like that. It made so much sense to him. He's like, "Okay, she has hexed me. I understand now. It makes so much sense. I'll have peace when she takes it away." So he's like, "Hey, you bewitched me. You got to take it back." And she's like, "Okay, fine. It's gone. Bibbidi bobbidi boo. It's gone." And she knows that she hasn't done anything. Like she doesn't have the power to do that. And so then he's like, "Are you sure you took it away? Because I'm still kind of like feeling these like weird love things towards you." And she's like, "You're feeling love things towards me, you say?" Like, well, that's interesting. Like, I promise I took it away. And so it's like she knows that he loves her, like at that point, which like made it better because then she was like, he's just not like realizing it, he's just not like accepting it, which like I really loved. And it was just funny watching him try to like rationalize his thoughts.
The way that her having put a love spell on him is more immediately believable
Yeah.
than just him having feelings.
Deep feelings. Yeah.
He's like, no, that can't be it.
Yeah.
It's gotta be the magic.
Yeah. It was just so interesting again, like how her magic never was able to fix like the truly bad things, or like she couldn't bewitch him into falling in love. She couldn't really. I mean, she kind of like got them to the vicinity of the inn, but it's still they were like on a lake or like a body of water. So then she falls in, and that's how she gets.
Well, no, because the inn wasn't real.
No, she had to like visualize. So then they like get. I envisioned it as like she got them kind of somewhere close to an inn.
But when they leave, the inn disappears. It's implied that.
Oh yeah, because the people
that what's her name? The aunt is all of the.
I missed that.
I think it's her and her familiar are the dwarf and the giant. She created the inn. That's why they vanish. They are the cook and the butler. They kind of vanish at the end, and they're not really sure why.
Missed that. I caught that they vanished, but I was like, I don't know.
No, it's because at first he was like, oh, you know, when he goes, oh, the old woman, of course. And I was like, what old woman? What are we? And it took me a minute. Like, it took me a while to think back, but then they kind of, I don't think they ever, like, really explicitly explain it, but it's kind of
But that makes a lot of sense, yeah. Well, because I remember those things, he was like, oh, I'm happy I wasn't making that up. Because, like, I swear there was, like, people there.
Yeah, and then they vanish. And then as they ride away from the inn, it's, like, mentioned that the inn just kind of disappears into the...
Oh, see, I just accepted it.
I mean, valid. But I was like, so magical. I didn't realize until the end that...
Yeah.
Both of those pair. I assume it was her and the familiar, because I don't know how she could be two people at once, but it was both of them at the inn, and then both the cook and the butler.
Look at that. That makes a lot of sense.
I don't think there was anybody else, but I think it was those two.
Well, that makes more sense, because I was like, he was really gonna die too, because he just like redressed her after she'd like been submerged in the freezing cold water, and then she was like he's like holding her, and then she like pops up and he's like, well, she's fine, like that's great. And then she starts like disrobing, and then she's naked and like having conversations, and he's like, oh, she's delirious, this is bad. And she's like, it's burning. I'm like, well, that would be hypothermia.
He's like, she's not shivering. That seems concerning to me.
Yeah.
No, I think the implication was that the aunt never went to America. This was all set up, and she was watching over them the entire time.
That makes more sense at the end than to kind of the
like that's how she knew to. She was there.
Okay,
she was following the progress.
So she's even worse at magic than I was giving her credit for. She really just fucked them over so well in that snowstorm. She just a snowstorm on top of a body of water and ice. She magicked them there, and he's like, what do you mean? And then she couldn't fix Steven. She couldn't like save him. And obviously the aunt's magic was able to do it. But like it's like, I wonder like in her years if she ever like, got better as a witch. I don't know.
Curious. I mean, her kids' magic seemed to be
doing
pretty well. I mean, she could do small-ish things.
It's like, probably just a confidence thing too.
Yeah, and they talk about like her focus is a big issue. Yeah, she got ADHD or something. Mm-hmm. Too magical. Too much going on. Can't focus.
No. What a good book.
Honestly, yeah. Might be a new favorite.
I know. Well, I saw someone before this say that they reread it, and like I didn't get it until I got it. And now I'm like, yeah, I'll definitely reread. Because again, it's kind of like it's so soothing to reread to me because you know what's going to happen and you know how things are going to turn out. Because then you can focus on other things. You can focus on like more of the nuance and everything. Because I definitely get very scared when I'm reading new books. Because you never know what's going to happen. And so now I can just be like, okay, I know.
I'm gonna go back and revisit the spells she would make up. Those crack me up. I'm like, honestly, that's the most impressive part of this because I cannot make up rhymes on the spot to save my life. My brother can do it. He like changes the lyrics to songs and makes them silly, but they always rhyme, and that's always impressed me so much because I'm like, I can't.
I
rhymes like that.
Did that with my brother when we were younger to the Shrek soundtrack. We'd be like taking road trips with our family, and then we'd have like All Star on, and it would just be like, "Hey, now want to go to McDonald's?
Oh my god,
get the milkshake and fries, like that kind of stuff." Because we'd annoy our parents into doing that. But that's my extent. But yeah, well, I mean, because I just read the Teresa Medeiros, A Breath of Magic, and she is a Puritan witch. And so that one, again, you should read that. It was fucking fun. She like magics herself into 1996. Oh my god. And there was like the whole like trying to convince him that she's a witch, and he's just like, no, like, well, because I'll talk about it more in our other episode, but there's like he has reasons to think she's like scamming him, obviously, because it's 1996, and he's like, you're not. Like, what do you mean?
Obviously, because it's 1996.
And it's just so funny reading a historical book that's now historical because it's 1996. But then just the Puritan time, it was really funny. So like seeing that, like how magic was treated there, and then how it was treated here was really fun. Because then in the next book, it's when she goes back. She's the daughter of the two of them, and then she goes back in time to like the 1200s, and she gets a hot knight, and it's great. That one was even better than book one because the hero in book one was a little bit like hot and cold, yes and no, but like the knight, he's wrong and he's right. He was hot.
That just makes me think of that movie. One with Hugh Jackman and Meg Ryan.
Oh yeah.
I'm not gonna remember the name, but that one.
Oh god, it's right tip of my brain.
Yeah, I'm not even trying because I'm not gonna think of it. As a side note, I was flipping through this book and I feel the need to bring up number 1, all the funny little section titles, which I love. Bring that back. Like the Once Upon a Time, the Magic, the Mayhem,
there's like the Reckoning or like the Heartbreak
Change.
Yeah.
All of that, delightful. Second of all, in the sex scene where she's like, oh, thanks for like shrinking it and making it fit.
That was like, great.
Can you shrink it a little bit? And he's like,
well, because like the first time, because he was like still inside her. It was like after they both finished.
Right.
And then she's like, oh, that's so nice. Like, that's so nice of you. He's like, what? And she's like, oh, you just shrunk it a little bit. Oh, God, that was great. The Hugh Jackman movie was Kate and Leopold.
Ah, thank you.
And then there's the night before Christmas or something with Vanessa Hudgens.
Oh,
it's
I
like
never
the
watched
Netflix
that.
one. Oh, I love it. That one, The Night Comes to the 21st Century. That's fun. I need more time travel books because I ate it up. It was so good. It was phenomenal. And also more magic, more witches. I just need it all. So that's my plea. That's my call to the universe.
I would love more historical paranormals. The problem is there are some, like this one, that are really excellent, but there are quite a few where I'm like,
yeah, like
this just
the Teresa, like the Teresa Medeiros were good, but they weren't great. I will say the animal death was really the baggage of book 2. Spoiler alert, which I think you should be spoiled on that just so you know what you're going through. Book 1 was interesting because it's like different kind of magic. And then the other one, it took place in like May, like spring, which I was like, why? So the vibes were kind of a little off. But that one I was close to giving it 5 stars. It was very good. But it was like different. And the series was unfinished, so there were like some things I was like, I want more. But yeah, well, I mean, she's just a phenomenal. I wish she had written more because I mean, her other paranormal, nothing to do with magic, but the vampire ones were so fucking good. Like,
Oh my God,
honestly, like I'm so close to just buying her entire backlist because she only has 2 audiobooks, which I did listen to. Those were like my least favorite, which is obviously going to be the case. The 2 audiobooks that exist are going to be the ones that I wasn't as huge about. They were just more normal, I guess. But what an author to just like knock it out of the park. Good for her. So yeah, because you've been reading a few other ones.
Oh boy, have I.
Some of those like vintage.
God, I love Signet Regency.
Signet.
I don't even care that they're not that great. I'm just here for the vibes. It was only the one before that was not that great. The one I'm reading now is actually pretty good so far, but I'm not very far in, so we'll see.
Well, and there's the one Lisa Kleypas that I see people talk about.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of
I
like
have not read.
Side-eyeing, like, do I want to read it? But yeah, I wish there were more. There is a Elisa Braden sent me a faded email last night. I mean, it wasn't just me, but I'm main charactering myself. It was fate. She sent out a mass email to her subscribers. And she's got a novella, The Secrets of a Moonlit Night, on Kindle Unlimited. That one involves a ghost. And then she's part of a paranormal anthology that's coming out, I think, on the 28th of October.
It's on my birthday.
Oh, hell yeah.
So,
love that for you.
Present to me.
And that is called Once Upon a Haunted Romance, a historical romance collection.
Why aren't there more Halloween historicals?
I know.
I want more.
I know. And apparently, like her novella that's on KU was in one from last year. Last year that was A Midnight Requiem from Dragonblade Publishing.
I saw that. I didn't read it, but it was on my list of like.
Yeah,
things
I should have bought. I didn't know that. I mean, I just think of Requiem for a Dream from Parks and Rec. But that's it. This is a plea. This is a call to action. Someone somewhere write more. It's
funny to me that like witchy contemporary romance is very in right now. Like, and there are a lot of contemporary witch romances. So
they're so hard to pull off for me.
Well, I'm just intrigued by the fact that like that's so big that it hasn't. Yeah. Like, I haven't really seen anybody like recently write a historical witch romance.
Yeah. There is a distinct
not that
gap in the market.
Contemporary and historical always like do the same thing at the same time, but like.
But you think, I mean, because there's like, I mean, now a lot of authors are going towards shifters, and like traditionally published like contemporary romance authors are like making their sci-fi and like monster romance debuts and stuff. And yeah, I mean, the thing about like contemporary witches, like now it like published 2022, 2023, they're always so distinctly the same in a way. It's like they're very quirky is not the right word, but there's just something about them that is almost dating. Like they're very dated in the modern time. I don't quite know. So like they never really
mean. Yeah. They all feel, not all. There are some really standout ones that I have read, but a lot of them feel like they're written by the same person.
Yes. Yeah, and I don't, so it's very hard for me to find one that I'll like absolutely like go to bat for, like that's like just a book that I'd reread outside of the season. So I'm like, and again, I just like historical romance better. So I would love if there were more options to choose from. I did get I had asked for submissions on my story about people like telling like for more historical paranormal ones.
I do have a lot written down that I need to read, but we'll get into that on our Halloween episode.
Yeah, I'll see if I can get any more in, or I will just put them in like a TBR list, like in the show notes. But yeah, that's just our thoughts on the severe lack of historical witches and paranormal stuff. I mean, there are like the Susan Allen. I read one of them, wasn't a huge fan, but again, I think I just wasn't in the mood for it.
Yeah, I have another one of hers I need to read. I mean, there are, like, a few, but
Yeah.
they're not usually witches, though. There are a lot not a lot, but
Shifters.
there's several shifters, several vampires. I think vampires are the
Mhm.
biggest one I've seen in historical, which makes sense.
Yeah.
And vampires, I feel like, are kind of having a comeback.
They sure are, yeah. Which I'm here for.
Oh, I also am. I love a vampire, I really do,
Mhm.
but where are the witch historicals?
I agree.
I just feel like the vibes are right.
They really are.
Alexandra Vasti, if you're listening, I would love for you to
Oh my
write us a
god.
witch historical romance. I just feel like you would eat that.
She'd be so good. Ugh. Well, now I want that to
Okay, wait,
happen.
I feel the need to say India Holton is excluded from this narrative because
Oh,
she
shit.
delivered excellent witches.
She really did. They're less spooky.
No, they're
more spunky. But not spunky in the bad spunk. Not the Elizabeth Hoyt spunky, just spunky. Jazzy. Snazzy.
Why would you
I have to
that
distinguish.
mental image?
Because the word has been forever tainted. Yeah. But India Holton, bow down. You are a queen.
Yes.
We need a princess. Ugh.
We need a princess. One who is not Jill Barnett. Somebody who's writing right now.
Holding out for a hero. I need things happening, publishing right now. Because again, Teresa Mediero, she's not writing anymore. Elizabeth Boyle, I have no clue. That series got canceled, so she hasn't written anything paranormal since.
The Alexis Hall one that I read, the Sapphic one, they're not. I'm trying to remember what happened.
Was that the Mortal Follies?
Mm-hmm. It's told by Puck. So there aren't I mean, there's one character who's like kind of a witch, but I don't think she uses the term witch. Like,
she's a witch.
Yes, I got better. She turned me into a newt. It's like magic. I don't think they're witches though. I think one of them is like she's accused of being a witch. Like people kind of think that she is, and that she used her magic to kill her family, but she's not really. But like, there are gods and goddesses involved, and it's kind of magical.
Mm-hmm.
So I really loved that book, but not witchy. But like, if you like witchy
and
like that's a book
just
that's
want
like
more like that. Yeah,
in the same vein. Yeah,
just like anything paranormal, sci-fi-ish, but also historical. Because it's just like I love the historical customs and like the inherent, like just the world that it is. Like it's just something that I love so much that contemporary just doesn't give me. And so it just really makes me happy to read them. Oh, well, there's that. Kind of got a little bit of a preview for our Halloween. So that's gonna be an episode.
Get ready
to remember.
Oh boy, is it!
Yeah, I know. I've read
so many books this month.
I know. I've read the most books, probably of the year. Will be in October, just because I've been reading a lot of novellas.
Me too.
And I've been in like a weird like arc slump where I don't want to read anything that I have, so it's just novellas after novella after novella because they're just short. And like
I'm
easy.
On like book 33 or something for the month.
Yeah.
And again, quite a few have been novellas, but like not as many as you would think.
And I'm fighting the urge to reread Immortals After Dark. Not the entire thing.
Just a few. Just rein it in until after Halloween.
I know, but they're so spooky.
Spooky is a state of mind.
It is. And I'm always in the Immortals After Dark state of mind. I'm probably I'll try to restrain myself until after Halloween, but who knows? I'm a wild card. I'm risky. So, there's that. And the thing is, I like those because they read almost like historical because the heroes are so old. And some of the heroines too. Like Sebastian, he's so old. And she's older. She's like centuries old. And he's just a little baby compared to her. But he basically reads like a historical romance hero. Same thing with like Rydstrom. They all kind of do. So I'm like, you know what? That's my contemporary historical.
Anyway, we've lost the plot.
Yeah.
We have lost the plot.
Where is it?
It's gone forever.
Cool. Love that for us.
Bewitching. I was bewitched. Go watch the show Bewitched. It is a banger.
Go do it.
It's got some funny Halloween episodes too. because her husband works in advertising. And he does an ad that's, like, an old crone-looking witch, like, he's an illustrator, like, he draws it, and she is so offended that he would and she's like, "This promotes harmful stereotypes about witches," and he's like, "Samantha, this is an ad."
You need to read the Teresa Mediero, The Breath of Magic, because, like, she sees The Wizard of Oz, and she's like, "I cannot believe they killed the witch." She's like, "Dorothy is a bitch." She's like, "I hate Dorothy. Can't believe they did that." And he's like, "What?" Oh, so fun.
Yeah, well, she leads a whole campaign to be, like, down with harmful stereotypes about witches. I'm pretty sure she, like, haunts that guy's dreams to do it. Or, like, she makes him think that he's dreaming by showing up at night and then being like I'm pretty sure that's
I know
that
the
the
Teresa
one
one,
which
that
shows
one
up with a vote for Coolidge sign. It makes me laugh.
the Teresa Medeiros one, the first one takes place on Halloween, or, like, there's, like, it's, like, a big, like, they have, like, a Halloween party, and, like, they go back in time on All Hallows Eve. So that is the most, like, seasonally relevant one that I've read so far. If you, listener, need to read something quick before, because our episode's coming out on Halloween, so kind of preparing you for next year.
I feel like I read one recently that takes place on Halloween. What was it?
There were, like, a few contemporaries and stuff. I feel like I've read, like, a few other ones that I don't
Captive
remember.
Bride by Catherine Ashe. There's a ghost, and he's gonna marry this virgin who's trapped in a castle, and he's gonna do it on Halloween, and then the virgin's no longer a virgin, so our heroine is suddenly the only virgin left, and so he's gonna do it with her, and she's like, "No, you're totally bluffing," but then he might not be bluffing, and so basically it's like, "Oh, we have to have sex to keep you from becoming this ghost bride and then die."
Was it good?
No!
Oh.
But, like,
That's disappointing.
was it a vibe? Yes. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't good, but I also was like, you know what? There's, like, a ghost that you can hear, but only virgins can see. And he's, like, kinda evil, but also kind of funny. I don't know. It was a weird book, but I did have a good time, even though it wasn't very good. So, more to come in our Halloween episode.
And that's all I'm leaving you with. We've got some sort of Moonlight something Old School episode.
Moonstruck Madness.
Moonstruck Madness next Friday. And then we're almost done with the year.
I think that's what it's called.
Insane.
I could have just
lied
to you. Okay.
No.
It's Laurie McBain. No. I know that.
Yep.
She's
so
like
got
a
that.
highwayman or something. It's a whole thing.
Exciting. I'm excited.
It is. It is exciting.
Yay. So that's happening. We have a break somewhere around Thanksgiving.
Somewhere, sometime.
Yeah. Julie Garwood happens. That's all I've got for you. However the Muppets end their show.
I don't know.
I don't either.
Estelle would know.
That's all, folks? Or is that Looney Tunes?
You're thinking of Looney Tunes.
Well, everything is Looney Tunes, just like these books. That's all, folks.
You gotta do the little circle spinny thing.
That'll be a treat for the people who listen to the very end and don't.
Shout out to you. You get
after the music's ended, picking up bottles on New Year's Day, and then woo! One spider was harmed in the making of this podcast. That's for you.